Welcome back in to Weather Nation as we show you some of the flooding scenes coming out of Texas, where it's been one round after another when it comes to that threat of heavy rain, severe weather, and flash flooding. Now, earlier this morning, we were tracking some severe weather and some flash flooding coming out of Palo Pinto County. So we'll go ahead and bring in Miss Amy Meyer. She's the media relations spokesperson for Palo Pinto. Miss Amy, thank you for joining us on Weather Nation on this Thursday. Can you just talk about what has been ongoing in your county in the last 12 to 24 hours with all of the heavy rains or thunderstorms that you all have seen across North Texas?
Yeah, we fortunately in Palo Pinto County have seen a lot of rain recently. Unfortunately, as you know, sometimes too much rain too fast, it's not a good thing. And I think that we've seen 6 to 8 inches in the last 24 hours. And I think you probably have better numbers than I do at the moment, how many inches came down in that short amount of time. And our emergency service district has been working all night between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. doing some water rescues. We've had a few vehicles that were disabled in water. We had people that were in a home that began taking on water, and they had to be rescued. 10 people had to be rescued last night. I think there was a couple of accidents on the highway. So the emergency service district in Palo Pinto County has been very busy the last 24 hours.
Yeah, you all have been busy the last 24 hours and also probably been very busy just over the last few weeks too, and last few months too, just with the repeated rounds of thunderstorms, severe weather, flash flooding. Now I'm just curious, just at least from a emergency response side, I know that here in the weather enterprise, we try to tell people when we have flooding in the forecast, remember, turn around, don't drown. So when you all receive a lot of those phone calls about people stuck in floodwater, how do you all try to convey that message of not driving into floodwater when it comes to these flash flooding events, and how you all train for responding out to these water calls?
Well, it's a message that we try to use all the time, turn around, don't drown, but people have to get where they have to go. And a lot of times you take off thinking, oh, it's just a small amount of water we can get through. It's no big deal. But unfortunately, it takes a very tiny amount of water to lift, your tires and take your vehicle, and you're out of control. And next thing you know, you're calling 911 because you need help from first responders. So, we just try to educate as best as we can. You can't say it any better. Turn around, don't drown. You just have to continue, pushing that message to people. And obviously, when you're out on scene as first responders, the first job you're trying to do is ensure safety. You're not trying to get a message out at that point. That has to happen before or after. But right now, we definitely are trying to encourage people. If you see water and you don't know what's happening underneath it, or it doesn't look like very much, be careful, because water can move very fast and can do a lot of damage very quickly, just like we saw last night.
Yeah, most definitely. Now I got another question for you, Miss Amy. Now we were just talking about this off air, that last year across portions of North Texas, we were dealing with some pretty bad drought. But in the beginning of 2025, with all these repeated rounds of storms, we're no longer dealing with drought, but your local spillway has been very active just with all this heavy rain that we've seen. Can you talk a little more about the spillway and just how active things have been with just keeping the water levels up pretty high?
Yeah, we have Lake Palo Pinto here out in Palo Pinto County. That's our main water source. And unfortunately, last year it was running dry, and we were beginning to look at emergency operations of how we were going to supply water. And then next thing you know, the skies opened up and our lakes filled back up. And then obviously it was pretty full in the beginning of this year. We are still having these rain events. And I think that we're about 50 days now that the water at Lake Palo Pinto has been spilling over the spillway. We're just losing that water. We're not capturing it. Mother Nature's in charge, and she just keeps bringing it down. And I think 50 days is about where we're at right now, that we are having water, run over the spillway. And that's just crazy. We are in the process of building a new reservoir out in Palo Pinto County called Turkey Peak Reservoir. And I'm pretty sure that we would have been able to fill up the new reservoir had it been constructed at this point. So we're very lucky for this rainfall that we're getting. You just never know what Mother Nature's going to bring to you.
No, most definitely. All right, Amy, got one more question before we let you go. Is there anything else just about just the flooding that we've seen lately across Palo Pinto County and also just severe weather that you just want to just let us know about across this part of Texas?
I think it's just really important that people stay connected to their communities and their emergency service districts and keep their eyes on the sky. Listen to the warnings. Just like we had in Gordon, the tornadoes that came through a few weeks ago. A lot of people were unprepared because the warning, it happened so quickly. You know, they didn't know what was coming. And fortunately, we didn't have we didn't lose any people during that. And that's obviously the loss of life is the most horrible thing that we can experience. So we just need people to pay attention to the weather. You know, I think we become used to it. It's like, oh, there's another watch, there's another warning, it's no big deal. No, that's not true. You need to pay attention to the sky, and you need to listen to your local forecasters and heed the warnings that they give you.
All right, Ms. Amy, I got one more question for you. You brought up a good point when it comes to, to receiving severe weather warnings. Got less than a minute here. Now, for residents that live in Palo Pinto County, are they able to maybe like subscribe to any warnings or ways that you all are just putting things out saying that active weather is coming in? If so, how can residents get subscribed to that kind of information really quickly?
So the city of Mineral Wells is the biggest community within the county of Palo Pinto, and there is a warning system that people can sign up to. They just have to go to the city website and put their phone number in, and they'll get a text message or a phone call. They'll tell you what's happening. Countywide, we don't have a system yet, but the emergency service district has just really started pushing out some really good. We're working with all the volunteer fire departments, and we're working so that people have the warnings they need to do. And using social media has obviously been a really big tool for us.